here with MedPro, and who we want to introduce is Mark and Trent. They're the owners of MedPro, and so I'm gonna actually let them introduce themselves as well, and then kind of let him introduce Sean and everyone else, and then we'll go from there. So take it off, Mark.
All right, thank you very much, Cade. So Mark Nichols, Trent Lindstrom, we both live here in St. George, and we've created this unique partnership with Sean, who will be presenting here in a few minutes, and United Solutions Wound Care. And our purpose, our goal, what we've realized as we've dove headfirst into the space is there's just in general there's a big lack when it comes to wound care and advanced wound care, and the patients actually getting care that's going to help them in actually get better and not stay in the system. And so the reason why we wanted to have this introduction here is first is to find out what your guys's needs are, and to see if there's anything that we can do as a company to help facilitate or satisfy or build up your company, help your patients. And to help us do that, we've brought on a mobile provider. We've partnered with a mobile provider, United Solutions Wound Care. And I can't see the big screen. I'm assuming Sean is on here. They are a mobile provider. They are based out of Salt Lake, but they've got 3 nurse practitioners here in our area in southern Utah. And Sean and his team, Sean is one of the owners of United Solutions Wound Care, and they've got a unique approach to wound care, and not just the advanced wound care, which just to kind of allude to, Sean will go over a little bit more, but we've partnered with a manufacturer that we have access to some unique or more advanced wound care products, such as amniotic and placenta-based patches. There's some liquid patches now, and we can dive more into that later. But we're not just an advanced wound care company that only has access to patches. We partnered with Sean and United Solutions Wound Care. They are a full-service wound company to provide wound care, whether it be acute, a brand new wound in the early stages, or if it's more chronic, more of a difficult wound that we've come across patients, as I'm sure you have as well, that it's been years that they've had this wound and it's just not getting better, it's not healing. And so this might be an option that we could partner to help some of your patients. So with that, Sean, are you there?
I'm here, Mark.
Perfect. Take it away.
Awesome. Do you know if I have access to share my screen by chance?
Here, let me stop my share. Nan, are you able to let him?
You should be good to go now.
There we go. Okay. How's that? Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, everyone, I'm excited to be on this call with everybody. We've got some exciting things that we're a part of here, and I think the goal here is to more or less introduce us as a company, as well as introduce a little bit about how we work and some of the uniquenesses that Mark was talking about. I guess let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Sean Woodfield. I live up north in Utah, up in West Point. If you don't know where that is, it's closer to Ogden than it is to Salt Lake, but it's in between. So I've been in the medical industry with a couple different things, different businesses, and a couple of us partners came together realizing that there's a massive demand and need inside the wound care space. There's a couple things that we have found that there's a big area that's lacking, and that's one is education, and I'll get into that a little bit, the understanding of wound care and proper way of taking care of wound care, not just in the medical side, but truthfully more on the patient side. As well as we wanted to create a more or less platform that we can really dive into with facilities and really create a partnership and relationship to really maximize the best way to take care of patients. with any facility, whether it be a home health or an assisted living or whatever that might be. Our goal is to create an area where we can really dive in and help create that partnership and relationship, and more or less assist what we can do to help you taking care of your patients in the best way possible. So this screen here explains a little bit about us as a company. Like Mark said, we are a full service wound care company. We take care of everything from the beginning to end. One of the things I do want to kind of talk about right at the beginning is our goal is to customize how you as a facility or any facility works on their patients, again, in the home or wherever that might be. We want to customize how we're doing business with you to make sure that we're fitting the needs of what you're looking for, and not coming in saying, hey, we expect you to adjust how we do things. We want to be the ones adjusting to how you do things. So we do have a team of medical doctors as well as nurse practitioners. Like Mark said, we have 3 out there with a number of applications that are on our desk waiting for as we continue to expand and grow in the southern Utah market, and throughout all of Utah. We have a lot of people ready to go. Our nurse practitioners are skilled and experienced when it comes to wound care. And so they are, when it comes to the advanced wound care, they're very knowledgeable and understanding of what needs to be taking place. We are partnered with a few different things. One is, like what Mark was talking about, was the manufacturer for different, whether it be grafts or products or whatever it might be, that we're able to leverage and utilize that. What our focus is really have driven science behind these things. It's not about just having a great product, but you need to have science behind that product so that you can have confidence in it. And so that's one of the main reasons why we partnered with this manufacturer, is because of the value of the science and the proof behind it. A couple other things here. We do, like I said before, we manage everything. We treat everything from chronic wounds all the way down to the basics of day-to-day treatment. And again, it depends on how you as a facility prefer to work on with your patients. So get a little bit in here of why wound care. I talked about some of the impacts of wound care and how it's affecting people inside their home and inside facilities. These are just some statistics of the impact that wound care is making. You can read through them as I'm talking, but we understand that there's what I call an epidemic in the wound care space. There's a lot of people really suffering with wound care, and we want to address that at a level that we haven't seen before. And it's, again, not just on going out there trying to treat patients and take care of their wounds, but help them understand and educate them on not only how they can be treated, but how they can prevent wounds and how they can avoid some of these debilitating wounds that keep people down. And if you've seen individuals that have these chronic wounds, it changes their entire life. It affects how they can be mobile. It affects their day-to-day lives in so many different ways. And so I'm sure many of you have seen how this affects individuals, and so we want to make that impact of how we can make a difference. And you can see some of these statistics and the impact that it's making in all over the world. And so, and some of these are pretty familiar, probably hit home for a lot of individuals. When you look at the diabetes side, 1 in 4 people with diabetes will experience a diabetic foot ulcer, and a lot of those things lead to the amputations. And so we want to help avoid those pieces. This is our really basic healing approach. So what we look at when we look at different patients, we look at the different phases that they're in. Phase 1 is their acute wound approach. So that's the basic wound that we all hear of. That's the understanding of what is you get a cut or something like that. And it's the basic wound care approach with traditional treatment. And we address that, and we help approach that at a level, as well as continue to educate. Where most of the challenges are is phase 2. And it's a challenge on a lot of different ways, from how well a facility can treat a chronic wound, or how the patient suffering with it, how long they've had it. And so there's a lot of pieces in here that what we've done is, this is where our area of specialty is the phase 2. We come in and we're able to address a chronic wound at a very high level and a very very strategic level with the different products and things that we have from a scientific background. So One of the things that we really like to educate people on is, I think wound care, because it is such a different concept for people of understanding, part of the education that we give is understanding what a chronic wound is. So many people jump into thinking chronic is very similar to a chronic illness, and the fact that when you deal with a chronic illness, it's more learning how to manage it for the rest of your life. From a chronic wound standpoint, it's a very different approach, and it's a different understanding is that a chronic wound can be healed, but it needs to be addressed in a different way than we would do it with the acute wound care. And so chronic wound is, by Medicare standards, a chronic wound is a wound that has not healed by more than 50% in 30 days of treatment. So what we do is we go off that approach of, if the acute wound is not showing signs of healing at a higher level, we change our approach and dive into the chronic, the phase 2, and start approaching it at a different level. And all this is communicated, and all this is relayed back to whoever's working with the patient, whether it be the nurses or the company, facility, whoever is working with the patient. Our focus is to make sure that communication's there. The overall goal here is to avoid phase 3. And from a phase 3 standpoint, there's a lot of pain, a lot of agony when it comes to the patient side. Obviously, surgical and hospitalizations now require a lot of costs and expenses on the patient side as well as the insurance side. And so what we've learned in the wound care space is that the insurance world, the Medicare side, has really put a massive effort into avoiding phase 3 because of that. Phase 2 has not been heavily approached throughout the years. Usually it's kind of a phase 1 leading into a phase 3 approach. And now what we have is a high scientific base level of phase 2, and that's what we're excited about. So this is our wound care approach. Our wound care approach, it's a brief overview of how we work. We prioritize working with patients from day to day, and we do that with our providers. So it's not our office staff necessarily always communicating. We are very focused on having our providers working with the patients that are in homes or in facilities. And the reason for that is because we want that direct approach. We want the ability to have that direct line of communication from the patient to the provider and vice versa. Along with that communication is the communication between us as a wound care company and you as a company as well, making sure that all communication is very clean, and very thorough, making sure you're very aware of what's going on with the patient, with the wound care side, as well as the patient's family. We want to provide as much information as possible for the patient's family. It's really difficult sometimes with wound care because the wound is always covered with bandages. And so we actually have a technology called tissue analytics that we actually take pictures of the wound. And what it does is it overlays week after week of the healing process of the wound. So families as well as facilities can see the progression of the wound. As we don't want to disturb it in between treatments, we want to make sure that it's getting well taken care of and staying clean. But at the same time, we're making sure that the understanding and communication is very clear between the provider, the patient, as well as the facility and the families. The third one there, we offer weekly visit. We do weekly visits as needed for the wound. Depending on the demand of the wound, we are focused on making sure that we get into the treatment as much as possible. Again, this is an area of different facilities like to work different ways. Some facilities like to take it on, from the beginning and do a little bit, and if it becomes too advanced, then they want to pass it over to us. Or some facilities say we don't want to touch wound care at all, and we take over from beginning to end. So that way, there's not any efforts needed on the facility side, and you can focus on what you are focused on and what you specialize in, and we can focus over here. So. Our goal is to reduce the burden on not just you as a facility, but as well as the patient. So our goal is to, again, customize how we work to reduce that burden for everybody across the board. And again, it goes into that process of how we work with the patient, making sure that we're looking at that 30 days. If there is prior treatment, obviously we come in and assess that prior treatment, and we can start addressing it from an advanced standpoint right out of the gate, or we start with the initial 30 days of let's get this thing healed within the first 30 days. And if there's any indicators of it's becoming more complex, then we change our approach. Again, our goal is to work with patients as fast as possible. So as the earlier, the better, so that we can avoid the extreme pain or frustrations and discomfort with the patient. One of the pieces that we emphasize on is the debridement side. From a wound care side, this is the bread and butter. This is the piece that if you have bad debridement, you won't have wounds healing. And there's a lot of challenges in the debridement side because of the old school debridement tools that are out there. If you've ever used a curette trying to clean a wound, you'll understand what I'm talking about. The challenges of trying to take care of the wound bed properly and get it cleaned well enough. And if you don't understand debridement, it's preparing the wound to make sure it's ready for the treatment that is being placed on it. And in order to do that, you got to clean all the bad tissue, the unhealthy tissue. You got to make sure that the wound is 100% prepped and ready. And there's a lot of challenges to that. And sometimes what happens is that you end up risking the damaging of good healthy tissue. It creates a lot of pain when you're picking at the wound. And so there's obviously, like some of these bullet points, higher risk of infection, prolonged healing time. So one of the things, as we were diving into this, we wanted to find a better way of debridement, and we were able to partner with a company with a new debridement tool. It's been out for a little while, but it's been really driven behind science and education, and this is an amazing tool when it comes to work, not just from in-home aspect, but from a pain, from all the things that are there. This does have FDA approval on it. There's science behind it, with peer-reviewed research and science behind this tool. It's very different. It looks like a little toothbrush, a plastic toothbrush. The value to this is when you have a wound bed that needs to be prepped and cleaned, this tool allows us to be able to go in and clean that without destroying or affecting any of the healthy tissue, as well as removes what's needed. And so those little prongs are on the top there. What they do is when you scrub at the wound, it's able to remove it and do it very cleanly. It is a plastic tool, so it's nice from you don't need to worry about sharps containers or anything like that from a risk of that standpoint. So the tool, this is a game changer in the debridement space. Right now it is being used very heavily in the Mayo Clinic and various VA clinics. And right now, as a mobile wound care company, we're the first in the space that's diving into utilizing this tool, and it's making a big difference. It's really it reduces pain, it reduces a lot of the discomfort for the patient as well. So it's important on multiple sides. Wound care education. I talked about this at the beginning. One of the pieces that we have really focused on is the understanding that. In fact, the statistics have shown that wound care education from a patient understanding post-COVID is around a kindergarten grade level. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of misunderstanding about wound care and the effects, how it happens, how to address it. There's just a lack of knowledge. When you talk about wound care, people don't understand the impact that wound care has on people. They don't understand how they can address it. They don't even know how to take the next step. So we have conversations with people that they're just, they hope that just going to the doctor can put a bandage on it, or they're at home and they're just putting the basic things on there. They do their research and maybe it says put some Meta-Honey, which isn't a bad thing, but that's all they do. And they have a hard time with the wound. We talk to people that have chronic wounds for more than 10 years. And so when you're dealing with chronic wounds for that length of period, it affects your life. And so one of the things that we bring to the table that we're focused on is a high level of education. We want to make sure the patients understand not just education on what's going on with their current wound, but how to prevent other wounds and how to prevent the wound getting worse, or whatever we can do from that, the prevention as well as the treatment, educating them and understanding what wound care is and how it works, along with education inside of facilities. We understand that wound care is not the expertise for everybody. And so from inside the medical facility, from the medical staff, our goal is to also educate on that standpoint to make sure that the understanding of wound care is very thorough, so that they understand what they can do and they can work with us through that process of managing wounds and taking care of the wounds on every level. And so educating from the medical staff down to patients is a massive focus for us. You can see that we do workshops, we do in-services. We love the ability to go into facilities and educate individuals, whether it be situations like this that we can educate, or however that may be, specifics. We do have on our website, we've created a platform on there that if you go to our website, there is a button at the top that says education with a bunch of different questions that you can click on with thorough answers and information. We do have a wound care awareness video that we have that we can get out to educate people on the basis of wound care. What is a chronic wound? What is an acute wound? What can you do to prevent? What you can do to treat? What the next steps are? And so our goal is to create an awareness. One of the things that we are focused on branding is wound care awareness. Our goal is to go out and educate the community on how this can be prevented and how it can be approached because of the impact that it's making in so many people's lives. So again, the full scale approach, not just from a treatment side, but also an education side. As a company, we're focused on making sure that we can go into every scenario and take care of the treatments and take care of the patients. From a facility standpoint, we want to assist you in every way possible to make sure that we can take care of the wounds, take care of the pieces that need to be addressed from your side to make sure that you're able to address the patients at the level that you want to. And so we want to assist in that. We don't want to come in and take anything away from anybody that if there's areas that you want to participate in, we want to assist in the gaps that we can help with. From a full scale standpoint, again, we do everything. From an insurance standpoint, we are focused on getting covered from every insurance provider that's out there. We are insured or credentialed with a variety of different insurance companies, and we're working on a variety of more to help cover the scale of every single individual that's out there that we can treat with every insurance. So I'm sure you understand that from that standpoint, we're working on a lot of different pieces of credentialing. And like I said, we already have a variety of different companies that we work with that we can discuss that. But our goal is to make sure that we can cover every patient and cover the need from everybody that we can. So with that, I appreciate your time. If there are questions, I will hang out. I will answer any questions that you might have. I can quit sharing this unless you guys have specific questions on the slides. But I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to have to come on here and just inform and educate where I can. So if there's any questions, I'd love to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, when Kate visited, Pete, I don't remember, did you give us like a referral tablet or form that we have to send in if we have a patient for you guys? I get into my drawer and I don't remember.
So on anything that you have referral wise, you can reach out to me and Josh, and I mean, we'll take it from there. We'll get Sean and everyone on board. Just because we'll just be working side by side, all of us together. And
Okay.
I mean, that way nothing's getting dropped, where one of us will always be here to answer any questions or any concerns, anything like that.
Okay, so yeah, because I did find the booklet for the MedPro Care, but it didn't have the United Solutions wound care on that. So
Now, what I could do, Trace, is bring you like the questions that we would have, like we would need answered before we even get Sean involved, everything like that, just so you can see it. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy. You're gonna have most of it already easily accessible to answer the questions we have. So I
okay,
don't think it will be a big deal, but we can drop one of those by just so you have it, and then we'll go from there.
that'd be great because it's great to have options. We do work with several other mobile wound groups right now. A lot of the referrals we actually get for wound care come from the ISU wound clinic, unfortunately, sometimes. Or like the podiatry offices, you know, they kind of run their show. But we do have some patients that will go in on and they have like you said, the chronic wound, or even just a complicated wound that has not been treated appropriately. And so we'll bring in a wound specialist group because we're not wound experts. You know, we're general home health, and you know, their marketing, so we work with on-site, we work with professional wound specialists, innovation, um, and basically what we've been seeing is the nurse practitioner goes in about, you know, once a week, sometimes a little more frequently if there's a complication. Um, we also work with Amble, and like the nurse practitioner with Amble has been very hands-on with her wound management. And then we get reports from all of them. Some are a little faster than others. But what we haven't seen is the education portion, you know, being very active. At least from our side, we haven't seen, you know, what kind of educational materials have been given to the patient or their family, other than what we give them, you know, in conjunction with the wound care. And also, we have been offered to have some in-services, and we have one, but not very active because they are very busy. You know, the wound groups that we've used so far, they're running, you know, they're trying to cover the whole area, and I know they're really busy. So, how would we be able to see what you guys are presenting to that patient or family? Do you give us a copy of what your practitioner's given, or does that come within their notes after a visit, or?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely what we can do is we can provide you the same information, because what your patients are seeing, we want you to see. We want you to be on the same page of not only what are we doing, but what are they learning and being educated on. So however we can educate, our goal from that side is the full scope of not just educating the patient, but what can we get to the families, right? How can we help the families help the patient, as well as what can we get you as the healthcare provider? How can we go out there and really create the education? Just like you said, it's not out there. That was an area where we saw was lacking, was how can we go out and really make a difference, not just on the treatment side, but really make a difference on the education. I mean, there's so much awareness out there for so many different things, right? And wound care has kind of fallen by the wayside. We want to now bring that up. We want to create that level of knowledge and education on both sides. So yeah, absolutely. Everything that we give them, we can absolutely give you as providers, so you can see what we're doing. We can email them to you. We can send them to you, whether it be pamphlets, videos. One of the things that we've talked about doing is maybe doing just a webinar type thing, maybe twice a month, where we allow a platform people to hop on and learn. You know, that's all it is. Family members, invite the family members, invite everybody. Straight education, not solicitation. It's strictly just focused on educating and impacting people's lives from that side. So our focus is, again, from healthcare provider all the way down to the patient and their family. And so absolutely, that's what we would love to do is create that platform for you as well.
That sounds awesome. One of the things we're trying to avoid, which is difficult with wound clinic, is daily or every other day visits and disturbing that wound and doing the mechanical things, like you said, that may, I mean, our nurses don't do mechanical debridement per se, but when you're removing the dressings and you're cleansing and all of that, that is in some way some mechanical debridement. And sometimes we just see the wounds have more complications because of the frequent wound care orders, you know, and so we're not seeing that as best practice. And so I was wondering also, what about your group? Do you, with the technology that's out now, are you seeing that, you know, 2 to 3 times a week max on the wound cares where you're going with this? Like once
it really depends on the wound, and yeah, it depends on the wound and where the level of I guess the approach on it, right? If it's a wound that does need to be cleaned, we've seen wounds that need to be cleaned 2-3 times a week just to keep that cleansing there. You know, the moisture or whatever that might be, we need to take care of that. When it comes to stuff, maybe it's a graft or something like that only can be addressed once a week. Now, one of the things that we can do is we can have protocols in place that if maybe your nurse or whatever, that's what we do, is we can say, here's the protocols. if the dressing is falling off or anything like that, we can have protocols in place to make sure that the proper process is happening, so that, you know, a nurse or anybody goes in there and says, well, what do we do here? Maybe we'll just try and work on it.